get sensitive about the fact that people say he'll never take a serious controversy.
Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, Benny comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that?
But you're not...
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
Intermonti, tungande rubante.
Well, you clicked on this video, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this situation. And I tell you, when it comes to late night television, it's on its way out. Late night television is dying right now. And you've seen it in the ratings. You've seen it, you know, as far as the advertisement dollars, basically the losses to these companies where they're losing money. And now they're trying to pin it on this administration. They're trying to say, oh, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump. It's the censorship that they're trying to put out on us. And I'm here to tell you that it's nothing to do with censorship. It's nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's nothing to do with the Republican Party, the conservatives, or anything of that nature. This has to deal with how you've been running your shows. That for quite some time, the warnings have been there. And it goes all the way back to Johnny Carson. But before we get into this, take a moment to drop a comment, like, share, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it because it'll move us up in the algorithm because of the shenanigans that are going on with YouTube right now. Thank you once again for taking this moment to hit the video. We really do appreciate it. But if you interact with it, it'll help us even greater. So, we're not going to read any articles into that nature, but I do have one article to add to this later on, and we'll put that into the perspective of what is going on. And I'll tell you this. I grew up with late night TV. Born in the 60s. Grew up through in the 70s, 80s, and so on and so on. And yeah, I lived on Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, David Letterman, Pat Sajak. I mean, I can name down shows, Chevy Chase. You know, there have been many, many late night shows, but nothing compared to the Tonight Show and Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Late Night with David Letterman. And, of course, the Conan O'Brien Show. Those were 3 great shows in the past. I mean, there have been many others, obviously. You know, Craig Ferguson, another good late night show with him. And it's bad what they did with him. He had such a great show, and they pushed him away. But you look at what has happened. And this is also because streaming had some of these shows as well. And they didn't do well. For the reason is they did one thing that they were told not to. Politics. To get into politics. If you're going to make a joke about a politician or something like that, or something like that, in the monologue, that's fine. You know, you stay. But if you spend the entire 30 minutes, hour, however long the show is, on just bashing a particular politician, president of that nature, that's no good. And even Johnny Carson has said this. What made Johnny Carson's show was so good was how you talked, how you presented, you know, the guests that you come on. Same thing with Conan O'Brien. Same thing with David Letterman, Pat Sajak, Chevy Chase. You know, we can go down. Like I said, we can go down the list. And they're going to, and you look to what Johnny said prior to that, and you've seen it in the opening, that you don't do this. You talk. one thing I loved about it, and you can go back and look for these things. One of the best guests to come on the Tonight Show was Don Rickles. Don Rickles would show up, out of nowhere sometimes. I mean, one of the best ones I think has to be the Sinatra was as guest on there. He just got married recently, and he was on the show. And Don comes out, and the interaction between Sinatra and Don Rickles is just it is hysterical. And he did this with Burt Reynolds and many others. And it's when you look into that, how much fun the talk was, and how the jokes that they were throwing back and forth, and the type of insults that it's just a playful banter, as a comedian would do. And considering Frank was like a good he was a good sport to that point. Like one of the jokes on there was the that he talked about, which is actually really happened, was that how and Sinatra would say he had said that he was in a restaurant and Don came over, says, hey, listen, I'm with this girl, and I said, I know you and all that. Could you come over and take a moment and say hello and stuff like that? So he goes back on there, and during the coffee, Sinatra decides to go over and say hello, and he goes, hey, Don, and he says, Frank, why are you bothering me? Can't you see I'm eating here right now? That situation, which is hysterical. Oh, man. I mean, there've been a lot of stuff, and not only the Johnny Carson stuff, the Letterman stuff with the top 10, a lot of the side bits on there. Conan O'Brien with his bits on there, like they had the Chuck Norris lever, which is one of the funniest bits on there. And and he couldn't take that with him to TV. Most of those bits, when Conan left NBC, he couldn't take those bits with him because they were, NBC, it was like copyrights NBC, and he couldn't take it with him. And it was all this fun. Fast forward to what has been happening for the last several years between Colbert, Kimmel, and everybody else on there. All you had was just bashing, politicians, bashing people, not talking. And they talk about it, like, oh, yeah, you know what Trump did this week? Well, I don't like that this week. And then the vaccination things that they basically, the bits on that alone, I don't know what was worse. You had the other talk show that was on Netflix that did the abortion bit, or basically, you had Stephen Colbert doing the vaccination bit, and that was just out of taste. People say, well, it was a joke, the situation. No, you kind of took it over the line. Comedians are supposed to go over the line. You went over the line from the line that you were supposed to stop at, and that was not a good thing to do, because that was just literally propaganda. That's what you were doing, and it's the same thing with the abortion joke, the abortion number on that Netflix show as well. And now you put to the point, Colbert is been canceled, okay? And, people are like, oh, no, it's because of Trump and this and that. And it's like, well, the show cost $100 million. I think what's Colbert cost? $10-20 million? And they're losing $40 million on there. The money doesn't make sense. It doesn't at all. Of course you're going to get canceled. Your average view rate is about 2 million viewers. These shows used to pump 5 million plus viewers in the market. You're heading into CW territory. I mean, technically Colbert is the top on top. Everybody else is below, and I think the lowest is 1.5 million for the current Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. I believe that's what's going on. Was the last viewer numbers for that? That's bad numbers. That's really bad numbers. And they said they're not going to bring back late night. They're finishing off. They're closing off. Probably going to sell off the Ed Sullivan Theater, which obviously, Paramount has to make money to that point. They're being sold to Skydance. to that point. But, they said, well, the reason why we say it's Trump is because he had that lawsuit with CBS, and he won that lawsuit, and basically Paramount's bending the knee to that situation. It's not that they bend the knee, is that basically they did wrong. 60 Minutes was wrong to do that, and then obviously, they had to sue for that point. But here's the thing that people aren't telling you that happened simultaneously when Stephen was canceled. From Cord Cutter News, South Park creators reach a $1.5 billion streaming deal with Paramount Plus. What does that have to do with CBS? Well, it's Paramount, CBS. And the thing about it is, for quite some time now, and was in the background, is the South Park creators was fighting with Paramount basically to get their deal done, because basically Skydance was like, no, we don't like the deal. We don't like the deal. Besides that, basically they've been pulling down South Park episodes from overseas in the UK on Paramount Plus. I think it was about 15 episodes they've already shut down on there. They're no longer airing. And who knows how many they're going to stop airing here. But as far as what we know, I think they're still airing on Max. And they're still airing on Paramount Plus as far as South Park is going. Because we got the new season is just now coming up. I believe it's last week, yeah. The day I recorded this is basically, we recorded this on the 23rd, that the new season begins. And we'll see what happens to tonight's episode. See what happens on that. But this has been looming for quite some time, and it's been fighting on there. When you blame, you sit there and you say, well, they lost money because, what happened. They were losing money on the show to begin with. The network was losing money left and right. Skydance is going to buy Paramount and CBS. Yes. And what they're going to do, they're going to fire a lot of people. This happens when you merge companies. People get fired. Did Colbert need to leave? Yeah, obviously. Late night is not worth it. It's not worth it anymore. And before you say, they just pick it up Colbert. No. Letterman was knocking on them years ago. There's videos of it when he knocked on CBS. When he hit his 10th anniversary, there was no promotion for Letterman's 10th anniversary through CBS. Didn't happen that way. Later on they started, hitting on his anniversaries and stuff like that. But no, you didn't really get into it. And I'll put it to this perspective how insane this is. To that point. Not the first show to get canceled, late night show to get canceled on here. Years ago, there used to be the Pat Sajak show right here on CBS that ran for a short time period. Didn't do too well in the ratings. And what happened? CBS canceled it. Yep, they canceled the Pat Sajak show. What did they replace it? Well, I've always said the 90s was a great time for programming. And they replaced the Pat Sajak with some of the best television you could think of in the late night time. Is Crime Time Prime Time, or CBS Late Night, that they used to put some really good programming out there, including the vampire police series Forever Night, great TV series, the sexy crime series Silk Stockings, which eventually got sold to USA Network and continued on for multiple seasons. And then there was Dark Justice and a couple of other shows that were on there. Some of those were not memorable, but did pretty well in that slot. And this was like on a daily basis in the evening. Each of these shows replaced late night television, and they had the viewership. Remember, this is the era when this was out, Babylon 5, Hercules and Xena, and all these other shows that were coming out in that period. Maybe CBS with Skydance will go back to that. Late night television. Because honestly, the late night talk show, unless somebody can come across and make a really good late night talk show, is dead. It's dead in the water. Tonight's show is going to be going away. I expect Jimmy Kimmel to be canceled within the next year or two, especially right now with what's going on with Disney. Disney right now is selling off some of its assets, including AMC, History Channel, and Lifetime, and they're shutting down their linear channels like the Disney Channel X. Disney XD, the Fox channels that on there that's been going on for quite some time. They're going to eventually shut those down. So Disney's in a world of hurt that they do want to get rid of assets, and Jimmy Kimmel is an asset that they can shut down because Jimmy Kimmel is not the Jimmy Kimmel that I remember that used to be really good in what he did. The Man Show. Go back to watch The Man Show. Jimmy Kimmel used to have a great show, The Man Show. And that's what you expected from the Jimmy Kimmel Show. At first, he started doing a little bit of that, and then suddenly he was a whiny little pussy. And I'll say that. Yeah, he became a whiny little pussy on his show. And Jimmy Fallon will fade out also on the Tonight. Are they going to kill off the Tonight Show? Who knows? But I'll tell you, it's not the Tonight Show Johnny Carson anymore. Hasn't been for a long time. Don't take it from me. Take it from the book and the movie. It was called The Late Shift, based on the book of the same name. And it was a made-for-television. It was out in 1996. And this was directed by Betty Thomas. And it was concerning the late-night wars between Johnny, Leno, and David Letterman. And it starred Kathy Bates, John Michael Higgins, Daniel Roebuck, Bob Ballon, Ed Begley Jr., Treat Williams, and of course, the great Rich Little as Johnny Carson. Bob Iger. They even had Bob Iger in this movie, not himself on there. Nicholas Guest was playing Bob Iger at the time. Warren Litterfield. These are names that you're going to hear on there. There is a Babylon 5 throwback on this one because Peter Jurassic plays Londo Malati. Plays Howard Stringer from CBS on there. But the base of this movie is that Johnny retiring, and the crown jewel of NBC, the Tonight Show, is up for grabs. And it was going to go between Jay Leno and David Letterman. And the whole battle between the two of them to that point. And to the perspective of what happened, that literally, it's like to the point that whoever gets this show, it's not the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It's the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. If Letterman got it, he wasn't getting the Johnny Carson show. He was getting the Jay Leno show. That's what it was. That's why he ran off to CBS. CBS gave him a better deal to that point. And it's a good movie to read. It's Ivan Reitman that this was executive producer on this. It was done through HBO, and it's a really, really good watch on there. If you get a chance, grab it. I think it's still available out there. But but this is what happened. This is what as far as the late night wars. Today's late night wars, it's all political. It's all shuck and jive. Everybody, all three of them are talking the same thing. Nobody is original. When you had stuff like Arsenio Hall out there, the Chevy Chase show, you had like the Merv Griffin show, You had stuff like Later with Bob Costas, Later with Greg Kinnear, Poker After Dark. I mean, you had so many shows that were here. The Wanda Sykes show. You can go from one end of the spectrum to the other, and a lot of them were original. Some of them were good, some of them were bad, some of them were awful, but they all tried to be not, they tried to be original. I myself tried a late night time slot in the public access sense, and it's a hard thing to do. It's never that easy. It's never that easy a talk show like that. So comment. Let me know your thoughts about this. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Let me know in the comments line. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and hopefully today's the day I've earned your subscription. Now, for those of you this is the early show here on Wednesday. You will be redirected over to Sci-Fi Snob's channel, to the Babylon 5 retrospective, Soulmates. They're talking about on tonight's panel. If not, you can click on the link below later on, or watch the latter episode of Man with the Show at 10:30, which will automatically, once that's over, it will link you automatically to the show. So stay tuned on there. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out all of our videos here. Cast TV, Man with the Show. Tomorrow, Otaku Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube and Rumble. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. We'll switch you over to Sci-Fi Snob's channel. If you're watching this on the early half, you can come back later and click on it. If you're watching this in the latter period, toward 11 p.m. Eastern, it automatically will be redirected. So thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.